What I thought I'd do is give about 5 minutes to talk a little bit about the events of last night and some of my thoughts, and then go into the speech, which is relevant because bin Laden wanted to end New York City as we knew it and end Western and American life as we knew it. That was his goal. If you read his statements right after 9/11, it was not just to kill people, but it was that our way of life was bankrupt and he was going to end it. And that is not different than the Hitlers and the Stalins or Khrushchev when he said, "We will bury you." But these great United States always prevail. And I think what happened last night is, in a sense, a turning point in the war on terror. Doesn't mean it's over. But the fact that bin Laden is dead says to so many would-be terrorists whose minds he had infected with his poison that forget it. His way doesn't work. He's gone, and the United States is here and stronger than ever, and so is Western life. And so in a certain sense, it's certainly not a conclusion in the war on terror, but it's like a Gettysburg or a Saratoga, a real turning point that I think will change things around in terms of perception, particularly in the Middle East and in the Islamic world, and that's very, very helpful. Hopefully it'll change perceptions in Pakistan as well. It was not an accident that we didn't allow the Pakistanis to know what was happening. And that's because they're sort of a divided nation. A large portion, particularly in the middle levels of their military, of their intelligence service, has sentimental attachment to the Taliban and even to Al-Qaeda. But there are some indications that Pakistani intelligence helped us here in this successful mission. And it would be typical because they're a divided nation. One hopes that the end of bin Laden would give the upper hand to those in the Pakistani government and in the Pakistani nation who tend to take our side and want to pursue a path of freedom rather than fundamentalism and terrorism. A third point I would make is this. I spoke this morning to both the people in the FBI and people in Homeland Security, including the head of the Counterterrorism Office for New York City. And they have not detected any pickup, if you will, uptick in threats or events against our city or, for that matter, against our country. You know, we're much better. This did not happen by accident. We're much better at fighting terrorism, and one of the ways we're better is we can basically we know who the terrorists are when they're part of a group, and we can hear what they're saying. And so it's not an accident that, praise God, there haven't been any acts of terrorism against the United States since 9/11. It's because we're much better at it. Our intelligence and our military have developed along the way, and President Obama gets great credit for it, and he had the courage to let the drones go on the Pakistan side of the border, but so does George Bush, who nurtured these kinds of things as well. I don't think this is something where one gets the credit and one doesn't, just because the assassination, the elimination of bin Laden occurred under the President Obama's watch. We're much better at it. We know more. And so when the authorities tell us that they haven't detected any, any chatterings on the wires or whatever else, it's a pretty good indication, not perfect. The danger we face is much more likely from individual terrorists like the Times Square bomber, who act on their own, than from organized groups, which we pretty much have a good idea of what they're doing and what's going on. And might they, in the next few weeks, decide to take action into their own hands? They may. We know who a good number of them are because they often connect to some of the groups, but that's the place that you have to be most careful about. The final thing I'd say is to the families. They have suffered so, and their suffering isn't going to go away. There's a hole in their hearts that will remain forever. We know that. But many of them expressed to me, one person said to me, every day, this was about a year ago, every day I think of the fact that my husband is dead and bin Laden is alive. When are we going to get him? That awful thought, which can play in your mind if you were in her situation, is no longer a thought that has to be at all entertained by the families, and that is a good thing. So is there some closure for them? Yes. Will the hole in their heart ever go away? No. But their strength has been amazing. And I'd finally say one more thing. The day after 9/11, Senator Clinton and I flew up and we toured the damage and smelled the death in the air. And in an emotional moment, I said, I think every American should wear the flag. And people did. And I put on this flag, and I've worn it every day in my lapel since. And God willing, I will every day in the future. But I've never felt prouder to wear this flag than I feel this morning.
You got to go now. Go ahead. What you got to do?
Senator, can you turn this?
Yeah. To sort of capture what everyone's thinking, you think?
Yeah, I think this is what people are thinking, even though they're not saying it. This is what they're thinking. And I'm sure the family members are thinking it and have thought it before.